What was that? What was that term? Cornea, your eye?
Koinonia.
Koinonia.
It means fellowship.
Fellowship.
And allion, it means one another. So,
yeah.
Context of church. So, I am teaching a series right now called One Another. And one of the stats I did in this series, I'm on like sermon 3 out of probably 5 or 6 I'm doing. But one of the stats I did is that the concept of church we have is, a sermon, worship music, maybe some prayer, and then fellowship, right? Like spending time with people. But the word prayer, I think it was mentioned 20, 30 times in the context of church in the New Testament. Teachings is mentioned about 20, something like that. And then singing is only mentioned like 5, 6 times. So if you add all those up, it's under 50 times or 55 times. Those things are mentioned in the context of church. But when you look up the phrase one another, it's used over 100 times in the context of church. So when we make church about a lot of different things in our culture, what does the New Testament describe church as? It's the allion, the one another, which, by the way, the allion translates a reciprocal love, like brotherly love or a relational family type love. And so I think the idea of, especially bigger churches, the idea of stages separate the crowd from the person in charge. And it obviously, you can't have home churches everywhere, even though that was probably more of the original model. Smaller groups are huge and important, even in big churches. That's where the allion happens. But man, there's just something that we've idolized this idea of a bigger, and to the point where it's destroying the allion. It's destroying the one another unintentionally. And it's easy to go into a church where nobody has to say hi to you and you hide in the back and you punched your punch card for church that week. And that's unfortunately the culture, I think, that's been created.
Over the last 100 or so years.
Yeah, well, specifically last 50.
Yeah, last
70
50
years specifically. But that's since the idea of bigger churches. I'm not saying big churches are bad, but the average church in America is under 200. So, to me, that's a pretty good sized church. But, we have to redefine it. We have to redefine what church is, what fellowship is. And we're entering into a season where people are hungrier and hungrier for God, spirituality. They're curious. The Lord, I think, is really calling people right now.
Yeah.
And in our church, I see it. We've had a huge influx.
Now, one thing I think that's been happening is people don't necessarily think about what church is. So they just sort of accept like the church going experience and it's like, that's what church is.
Right.
But like church, if you get down to it, is in the Greek, it's the word ekklesia, the assembly, the called out ones.
Yeah.
So church is really at its core, the body of Christ coming together. So when you start to think about the other elements of what comprise church, if you think about it in terms of building out from that original concept, then you're good. But I think what happens is people look at a concept, a fully built out concept that already had the thought and the work put into it, and they just say, I'll just have me some of that. And they don't think about it any deeper. And then suddenly their church experience becomes rather shallow because church is only as deep as you're willing to go with it.
That's good. Well, here's the other thing I really hit in this series is we shop for churches like we're shopping for jeans. How's it fit? Am I comfortable? Does it make my butt look big? I mean, these are we approach church from a consumer mindset, and that's westernizing church, and it's encouraged, and we've created this market for it, and unfortunately, that leads to audience capture for pastors and teachers, where I just want to talk about the subjects that keep people coming in the door. And that's super unhealthy too. So it's created this really bad ecosystem and cycle And I think we're starting to see the fruit of it, but there is a lot of hope because we talked about this last time I was here. The last year to, I think the last 3 years, there's been a huge revealing of scandal and pastors caught in really bad lifestyles they've been hiding for years. Guys I've followed my whole life. And it's like God's cleaning house.
Mm.
And the cool thing about that is he's cleaning house for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what gets me excited. And in our church, I'm seeing this huge influx of young people, college age, high school age, just on fire for God, that want to talk to me after the sermon about what I taught and what they saw and how had questions about. And those kinds of things are rare. Every pastor wants that. But why now? What is it about this year and this era that people are just so curious about God? I had a lady, yesterday was Sunday, I had a lady come up to me and she said, I need to meet with you and your wife. I want to know how I can get close to God. Like that's it. I just want to get close to God. I don't even know what that means.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like this lady's in her like late 60s.
Dang.
This ain't,
That's awesome.
This is what I'm saying. There's people who are coming with this hunger.
Mm.
And I've never seen it before. And I've done ministry over 20 years. I've never seen this kind of hunger, and it's really getting me excited. But are we ready to receive it?
Yeah. It's interesting because it's kind of like why we started this podcast is me and David always seeked out media that, well, I shouldn't speak for you, David, but in terms of, I would imagine you do. I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
Probably
But something,
finish what you were going to say.
yeah, I was going to say.
So he knows if you're putting words in his mouth.
What I was like in this obsession with media, consumerism and consumption, I always desire for authenticity and genuineness in whatever media I'm going to consume.
Mm-hmm.
That's why a lot of people love like really famous directors and their early stuff because it was raw, it was authentic. They were just trying their best and didn't know everything, but because they didn't know the limits, they were able to do things that were outside of the limits that was usually placed on them. Yeah. And so the desire for authenticity and what's called usually verisimilitude is things that are authentic. That desire then I'm seeing also carry over into other areas of the public, like not just whatever video you're finding on YouTube or movie you're looking up, but your community. And it's hard because some places where we live, where people live, they don't have that opportunity all the time, but there's still that hunger, whether they find it online or in person. I've seen as well the hunger for getting closer to the Father and different aspects. And it's really beautiful to see that. Is the church ready for it? Well, I would say, is the church ready to be authentic?
Ooh, that's
Are they
good.
ready to be real and raw for God? Because what I've noticed growing up in, growing up in ministry is, and youth ministry specifically, is you're not going to see growth in them, the kids, unless you're growing with the Father. Because it's not just, we're doing it for the kids. No, you're being an obedient servant to the Father, and you must be obedient to him above all else.
Yep.
No matter if, the kids were really reactive to this sermon I did, or like in your example, the congregation, we had more retention with this, or what's spoken in a lot of churches nowadays is we should preach about this certain topic to get people in, or that could benefit us in the long run, or acting like a business outside of the assembly, and using the assembly even. But the point is, people are seeking authenticity in so many aspects of their life because, and especially in this generation, because they're seeing a lot of stuff is fake. The news is fake, the media is fake, the algorithm's faking you. AI's got fake videos. Like there's so much inauthentic things out there that is just fake and is just bad. And people want to seek what is raw and what will truly make a difference in the long run. And that's one thing I've seen with Gen Z and some Gen Alpha too now that are coming up is they are ready for, they're thinking about some things that they would think about in their 30s, but they're thinking about them at teenage and 20s, in their 20s and in the teenage years.
Right.
Which is really cool.
To add one thing to what you said about being authentic as a leader, you can't lead anyone until you could lead yourself.
Mm.
And that's that nature. And this is a good one too for married couples, like husbands leading the wife or the head of the household idea is they have to have the courage to get themselves led by the Lord and submit and obey. And then they can have the family follow him. Same concept with a pastor or any youth worker. You have to submit to God. And when you do, you will see people follow you naturally. You won't have to say, a leader should never say, follow me. You know, a leader should follow Jesus and people will naturally want to follow. And that's the nature of that. So the other thing is I grew up in the early 2000s Christian culture as a youth pastor. And I went to many conferences. It was like the mega church era.
Yeah.
And every mega church was exploding back in the 2005, 6, 7, 8. And we went to so many conferences about how to grow your church. And they were all focused on business ideas and marketing tactics. And it's working for our church. It could work for your church. And I'll never forget, there was this guy. He was a hippie guy. They had come speak. I forgot his name. He's a nobody now. But at the time, he was radical. He was like John the Baptist, had dreadlocks, you know, didn't dress nice. Went up on stage and preached. And he was an amazing preacher. He just preached from his heart. And it was at the National Youth Workers Convention. We used to go every year with my leadership team that me and my wife led. And he did a message the next year, and he just read the Sermon on the Mount, got off the stage and walked off. And people booed him. And there was nasty emails sent to Youth Workers Convention of America because they paid all this money to be there, and all he did was read the Bible. So the next year, they asked him to come back. And he got on stage and he chastised the crowd and said, what a disappointment are all the pastors who are not entertained by the word of God. And he read the Sermon on the Mount again and walked off. And I mean, it was a standing ovation. About half the crowd. The other half was upset. But that's what I'm talking about. That attitude that I paid this money to learn how to grow my church because it's all about the money. And that is, you know, the love of money is the root of all evil. And I get it. I'm a pastor. On Sunday mornings, the show must go on. Like there's this attitude, and you guys are in ministry. You get it. David's a worship leader. You run the sound equipment or whatever at the church and help lead youth. You lead youth too, David. You guys get it. The show must go on. It's easy to make it about the show going on, and I don't want to screw up this song. You know what I'm saying? Or I don't want to screw up my sermon or misspeak and embarrass myself. It's easy to let the fear of man rule you when you're running a church. But that's not what church is about. Or should be anyway. What do you think, David?
I agree.
Oh, so deep.
What do you agree with?
Yeah, just there's this idea that like ministry sort of can take on a life of its own. Like you start off doing a ministry because you feel like God called you to something, or you saw a need somewhere that you wanted to fill, something, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this ministry that you started becomes a thing unto itself. Its only goal is to keep itself going. And that seems to happen with so many churches, so many ministries. And it's like, why do we even do this in the first place? What's the real reason? And I think that has to do with what Jake was talking about, of people craving authenticity, is like that old model of just starting a ministry and letting it become a thing unto itself isn't going to cut the mustard anymore. People don't want that. People have tried fake. They know what fake's got them, so they want something that's real.
And
And
there
are we as the church ready to provide something that's real?
That's a question.
and that's something I'm really, youth ministry really taught me this, is you can only fake it till you make it so much.
That's
And
good.
and I remember countless Saturdays where it was just me and me and Steven, and we look at each other at the end of the night. We're like, man, we actually made it through another Saturday, because it was just us two leading. We have lives and we got stuff to do, but it was hard to be intentional, to even be authentic at times, because you spend the whole week as a young man, young adult, in your 20s, figuring out how to figure out life. And you got other stuff, your girl or whatever, or friend or your job. And then you get to Friday night, you're like, oh, shoot, youth group's tomorrow. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I got to see what I got to preach on, what the worship set's going to be. And pastors have the same thing with Sunday. And it's like, I've been inauthentic many a time. And it's even on this very podcast at times. And I just, it's something I strive to be, and it's something that I've learned from. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be like that. I'm just going to be myself, and I'm just going to just be honest, But intentionality is the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And being intentional about the word diligence. Protect your heart with, above all, diligence, for out of it flow the issues of life.
Proverbs 4:23.
Yep, you
Guard
got
your
it.
heart with all diligence.
Guard your heart with all diligence.
It's good.
So it's sometimes it's not easy, but I've learned that, even 20 minutes in deep prayer sometimes can make a world of difference.
Mm-hmm.
And at least you prayed,
Well, and to add, I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I was there. I did that for 18 years.
Yeah.
David was there for a lot of it. And I know the root issue, at least when I did it, was I didn't feel like I had a ton of support. And so in our church at the time, I was the young guy with a lot of energy that was a deacon or a youth leader. And the church loved it. They're like, run, Thad, run. Like,
I remember.
Thad's got it. It's Thad's vision. Run, Thad. I mean, that they were cheerleading me. But it wasn't like I had necessarily bodies sent to me, or, even the finances I needed to do it. And I never took a salary for 18 years. So it was, and that's not the problem. I'm not saying the money's the problem. I'm saying
the support.
I didn't feel supported. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And whether it's my fault, their fault, doesn't matter. But I'll tell you one thing. I have youth that are on fire for God right now starting a youth ministry.
Yeah.
But the difference is this time I'm the flippin' pastor. So I'm going to make sure they have support. Anything they need, they're going to get. Yeah. I'm going to make it happen. Whatever I got to do. If I have to move hell or high water, we're going to make it happen.
And the thing to remember with youth ministry, at least from what I've experienced, is regardless if you feel authentic or you're feeling real or whatever feelings, whatever,
right?
As long as you're obedient and because you're there to plant the seeds.
Yeah.
And God factored in your stupidity before you decided to do this. So even if you make a mistake, even if you stumble or whatever, God can still do great work in that.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that great work for years, but I also look